I said that Bourne said that health is war is the health of the state. Inevitably, even throughout our history, even before this 20th century, war did lead to the undermining of our personal liberties during the Civil War period, and certainly World War I and on. Sometimes we recapture those liberties and sometimes not. So whether it's a war overseas, our civil liberties are threatened. Whether it's a war against drugs, our civil liberties are threatened. And if it's a war against our right to own our guns, it's a violation of our civil liberties as well. But I am afraid we're in worse shape than we were even when Wilson abused the rights of Americans, because he was an abusive president in that regard, but some of those rights were recovered again. But today we are told that the war is endless. We don't know who the enemy is. We don't know where they are. There was an attack today, and the suggestion was that it might have been by Pakistanis, by two individuals. It's all that was on the news. So they're saying, oh, that's part of the war on terrorism. I mean, Pakistani, it could have been Indians, or who, we don't know. But the idea that two individuals have excited us to practically get ready for the next war. I mean, it is totally endless. War on terrorism is not a war. Terrorism is mere tactics perpetuated by various individuals. And once we are told by our own government that this war is perpetual and it's indefinable, it's worldwide, which means they want license to go anywhere they want, anytime they want, and they expect us to be there to pay for it and send our kids, and it's time that attitude ended. After 9/11, of course, after 9/11, they immediately planned in the administration. There were talk of what would happen immediately, and they said, Iraq. Of course, you know, there's still a large number of American people still believe Iraq had something to do with 9/11. There was zero relationship with that. And yet the plan had been laid, of course, in 1998 to go in there. Now, you talk about an interventionist policy backfiring on us. You know, the balance of power in the Middle East was a mess over there. Of course, we had been disrupting the area for a long time, supporting the Shah, precipitating the uprising of the radical Islamists in Iran, and of course, us being an ally of Saddam Hussein to invade Iran. No wonder they get a little bit annoyed with us, and then being an ally with Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan, and on and on. But even after all that, we had the Taliban on one side, we had Saddam Hussein on the other side, and we had the Iranians in the middle, and the Iranians were pretty well held in check. They weren't invading anybody, threatening anybody, and what did we do? His two arch enemies. The Iranians' two arch enemy was the Taliban and Saddam Hussein. So we go out and we get rid of them. And I just wonder, those who like and push this war, the question they have to ask someday is, what if they come to the conclusion of realizing that we inadvertently have provided a great service to the Iranians? Why wouldn't we say, why don't we just quit this stuff? But unfortunately, it goes on and on. We are now at a stage which is very similar to those years leading up to the needless and foolish invasion of Iraq. And that is the war propaganda directed toward Iran. There is a preparation going on. It probably will not be the same as what happened in Iraq because we're running out of troops. But once again, are these embargoes and these boycotts? These are acts of war when you prevent countries from importing goods that they need to survive on. This is an act of war. And what happens? Other candidates in our party have said, we will take nothing off the table, even a nuclear first strike against a country that is incapable of threatening us. I mean, we have to come back to our senses on this. Why are we so scared? Why are we so intimidated? We don't need to be. We should be confident. I mean, we're capable of defending ourselves. We have a policy that has been designed deliberately or not, who knows why these things happen, that literally rewards people who have nuclear weapons. Pakistan has a military dictator. He overthrew an elected leader, so now he's our friend. We go into Afghanistan, instead of going after Al-Qaeda and going after Osama bin Laden, we occupy the country for the interests of oil companies. And then what we do is we go and we support the Iraqis, you know, and support, you know, the regime that we have there, pretending that this is going to bring sensibility back to the situation. But at the same time, we reward those people. We look at Pakistan, who now is harboring Osama bin Laden, we send that money. And they sent technology to Korea. North Korea. North Korea's now are playing games with us. So it seems like we as Americans have only two choices. That is, either we bomb them or go to war, or we subsidize them. Why don't we just leave them alone? Immediately after 9/11, the attack on our civil liberties became very determined. And the many, many bills that were passed were not new proposals. They had been around. They were not brand new, but the 9/11 attack was the excuse, and it wasn't hard to gin up the eagerness in the American public. And many members of Congress knew that they had not studied the bill. They couldn't have. We only had an hour or two to look at it, and it wasn't even really available to us. But when the Patriot Act came up, when I asked them about, why are you voting for this, you haven't even had a chance to read it. And they said, well, the American people want us to do something. If I don't vote for this, then I haven't done anything. And besides, it's the Patriot Act. I won't be patriotic if I don't vote for this bill. So they voted for it. And then we start worrying about what it has done. It has done a great deal of harm, and it's on the books, and it's not the kind of thing like they did in World War I, where many of these things were reversed. This war is perpetual. And it's going to last a long time. They're not about to change their tune. Why is it now that we have warrantless searches? Why do we have the rejection of habeas corpus? Why do we have this notion that even information that is obtained under torture is admissible in court? And why did we, as a Congress, change the Insurrection Act? The Insurrection Act had for many, well, since 1807, I believe, that it said that the president has the right to declare an insurrection, an emergency, with the consent of the governors and the Congress. But now, it's only under the consent of the president, anytime, and for very lax reason. For medical reasons, for weather reasons, public order, they can declare martial law. And then you can be held, American citizens can be held as enemy combatants, in which means that the stage is set for American citizens to be held without due process and even being heard before a judge. And very, very dangerous. And quite frankly, I don't think we're going to see that massively abused in the next few months or even a year or two. But the idea that we're moving in that direction, we have no idea why. What was the purpose of removing those protections? If somebody didn't think it was a good idea as a, you know, protecting whom? Protecting the state. We're supposed to be existing, the government's supposed to exist to protect you, not the state.